Hey crafty cuties, welcome back to Paper Terrace. If you're new, I'm Jessica. Today we are going to hopefully finish the Bohemian journal. Now I was getting a little sidetracked with all of the 5 ways to do this and that video and kind of making it a part of the journal series, but then I realized I could continue those videos on the side, and let's go ahead and actually just finish the journal. And so we already did the cover and we made lots of pretty things to go inside the pages. So today, or at least I want to get it bound, I have some scrapbook paper that I want to use. So we need to cut that down along with the coffee dyed paper that we created. Now most of the journal is going to be coffee dyed paper, but I like to use the scrapbook paper for the outsides of each signature, and I think I might have 6 signatures. And so let's go ahead and cut all of these down. I need to cut these down to be about 10 inches by 8, or a little less than that. I'll do like 1/8 of an inch less than 10 by 8. So I'm just going to basically cut everything down right now, and then we also need to finish the inside cover of the journal. So I'm just going to, this is going to be really boring, so I'm just going to cut down all of my pages. Now to be quite honest, I haven't really counted. I just have a stack of papers, and we'll see how much we need as we get there. So I'll see you after these are all cut down. I have all of the pages cut down, and I did grab a few more things that I want to incorporate into the signatures. I have a glassine bag, I have a newsprint bag, and then just like a manila but white envelope. And as long as these are all smaller than the pages, we don't need to trim those down. So I have all of those cut down. Now I want to go ahead and get this finished and finish the inside of the journal, and so I just cut down a scrapbook page that was just a little bit smaller than the inside here, and I'm going to go ahead and just start by gluing the entire inside. Now I don't usually do it this way, but I am really trying to keep this journal, at least the construction of the journal, to be very simple. And so a lot of times I will cut out a panel for each, like the back cover, the spine, the front cover, but again, I want to try this out and make it a little more simple. And I have done this before and it works totally fine, but so I'm just going to continue gluing and kind of spreading the glue to make sure I have an even coat. So I'm just going to line this up the best I can to get it on there evenly. And then I'm actually going to turn it over like this. Since I did already put the metal pieces in here, it is a little bit easier to turn it over to get a really good press down. So just make sure to press every little part down really, really well before we start to bend the covers. And then you can also use a bone folder, which I'm going to grab mine to smooth out even more. So I'm just going to smooth everything out. And while I do feel like this gets rid of one step, which is to cut everything down, I kind of do feel, now that I'm sitting here doing this, I do feel like it's more work to get everything to sit just right, but I also do feel like it's going to be a really good, what's the word I'm looking for? Solid journal, because everything is one piece, so nothing can come apart, nothing can break off here. Not that it would anyways, but anyways, so we're just gonna go like this, and then you can just use your bone folder. You can kind of already see where the creases are, but just to kind of help everything bend. And then just kind of do that with the other side, just kind of slowly, so that nothing cracks, because I feel like that can be one thing you want to watch out for when you're doing this. And if your paper is extra, I guess, brittle, then I would definitely do the other route, which would be to cut a panel for each section. That way you don't have to worry about anything cracking, but if it does, you can absolutely always use something to cover that up. whether it be trim or lace, something like that. Okay, so now I can just make sure that everything is nice and folded. I will let this dry. I'll set it aside and dry, but I also wanted to add a little glassine bag in the front here with a little pocket, but you know, I feel like this definitely needs to be decorated, so let's do that later. We're gonna set this aside to dry, and we can start folding our pages and getting our signatures together. Now, I do plan to decorate these pages a ton, but I'm gonna bind everything first, and then I will do the decorating as we go. Sometimes I do it opposite. By the way, I'm just gonna be folding these all in half. Sometimes I'll decorate the pages first and then bind. That's definitely a good route to go if you're not too sure how many pages you can fit in, or yeah, mostly, you know, if you're just not too familiar with how many pages you might be able to fit in with your decorating style. But since I've been making journals for years and years now, I've made hundreds of journals, I definitely have a good idea of how many pages I could fit in. So that's what I'm going to do. Sometimes I just feel like I need to get, whoa, that almost cracked. Or yeah, it did kind of crack. Sometimes I feel like I need to just get everything bound in first, so that I can actually feel like I'm making progress, and that's just me. Yeah, this page was, it's a super grungy coffee dye paper, so I guess you have to be a bit careful, so that's fine. I can use that for something else, but all of these will be good to go. So I'll continue folding everything in half, and then we can put everything together. So I have all my signatures put together. I really put just 1 or 2 pages in here because I really want this journal to be able to get really bulked out without being a gator mouth. So you can see there will be still lots of room to add things. And now we're gonna bind. We gotta get these pages in, guys. We gotta do it. So I have a template here. I've explained how I make my templates a lot, and I wanna kind of go over the binding part quickly because I feel like by this point a lot of you know how to bind, but in case you're new, I just evenly spaced out 3 rows of 6 dots because I have 6 signatures, and I always put a T at the top, but I also placed that T where the ring fastener was so that I don't punch a hole into that area. And this template is just a tad smaller than the inside, than the binding. And so I'm just going to basically now punch a hole where all of the dots are. So we'll have 6 rows of 3 holes. And then, you know what, actually, then I'm also going to take this same template, and if you fold it in half, you can also follow these guides to take your pages, and you can use paper clips to hold your pages together. But since I only have a few pages, I really don't need to worry about that. I'm going to place it in the center, and then I can go ahead and start punching the holes out in here as well. So basically you want to start by punching all the holes. Once those are punched, I just set it to the side. The 3-hole pamphlet stitch is just the easiest, and I mean, there's no issues with it. It works every single time. So I'm gonna finish punching the holes into all of these 6 signatures and just setting them to the side. If you want a more in-depth binding video, I will post a couple below because I have so many on my channel. I like to keep it simple here. When you are punching the holes into the spine, you definitely want to make sure that it's all even as you can have it, and make sure that your template's not moving, so you can absolutely tape yours down. But I will just punch all of the holes like you see here, just making sure that it goes all the way through. Once we have all of the holes punched, it's time to start sewing our signatures in. I like to have them in the order that I want them to be into the journal, and I take my pile and actually turn it over because I'm going to start with the very last signature first. And so we are going to be sewing this signature into that last row, which you can hardly see on camera, but we're gonna just go ahead and take some binding thread or embroidery floss, whatever you like to use or want to use. And I personally like to measure by the height of my journal, and I usually go about 3 times the height. That's probably a little more than you actually need, but I always like to, I would rather have just a little bit extra to work with because I find it to be easier. You're gonna thread your needle, and I like to get a needle that's not too big because the bigger the needle is, the bigger you might create holes, you know, if they're bigger than what your awl is. We're gonna start by sewing the center hole, and you're just gonna place it through the hole. Make sure you are putting it into the correct hole, and then we're going to turn it over. You're going to go ahead and pull most of that binding thread out, but I leave a couple inches, and then you're going to go up to the top, and again, you really want to make sure you're in the correct lane, and then you're going to sew into your binding hole. Now this is a little easier when you can actually like have it closer to your face, but then you're going to go into the top hole of the signature. You want to make sure to pull this very tight. I know everything's a little wonky, but once we get it into the next hole, you'll be able to tighten everything up. Down to the bottom hole, sewing out to the outside of the journal. Pull tight, but make sure not to pull your end of your thread, and you can always tape that down too if that's better for you. And then we're going to go back into the center hole. And now is the part where you really might need to take your time here. Oh, mine went right in, but normally you have to kind of like, you can close the journal and just kind of see where you're actually sewing to. But then you'll make sure to, you want one of the threads to be on one side of the center thread and one end to be on the other side. And then we can go ahead and tie a knot here. And so again, you have one on one side and one on the other. Yeah, my thread's definitely too long. So you could do more like 2.5 times the height, and that's more than enough. But you can do a double knot here if you want. And I always do a double knot just to be safe so that nothing comes apart, and then you can trim your end of your thread. Then you're just going to copy that entire process for each lane, sewing in each signature. So we are all done binding. Now the funny thing is, for me, it's the next day because I had to finish binding this, and then it was just time to spend with my kids. But here it is. It's all ready to be decorated now. I sadly am gonna have to wait to do that for the next video, but I promise it will be up very soon. I am excited, and we have a lot of the decorated items already done from a few of the last videos, so we'll be able to easily finish off this journal. And thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know if you have any questions down below, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye guys.